Good. Okay, so
Hi Alexa, hi Stella, hi CJ, hi Sasha, hi Victoria, hi Amy. This is us.
okay, I'm going to start by introducing myself. I did it in the chat, but hi, my name is Bryce Weinberger. I use she, her pronouns, and I am part of the events committee for Future Voters LA. I am so happy to see you all here today.
Amazing. Hi, I'm Bianca and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Outreach for Future Voters LA, which is a chapter of the Civic Center focused on informing and educating the youth about their vote and its importance. Today, we are going to take a deeper dive into how to fill out the absentee ballot.
Yeah, so now we want to introduce the amazing Alex, who is a representative from the Civic Center that is co-hosting this event.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for coming and thanks for taking initiative on creating a how to vote from home and fill out the absentee ballot, which is really cool. Can I get a raise of hands or just like some sort of signal that you're gonna vote for the first time this election? Is that anybody here?
No, we're all young activists.
Okay, that's cool. Cool. So without further ado, I think that if we're good, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we'll go from here. Oh, real quickly, I mean, I don't know if anybody, if you all live with adults or older people who are kind of like in the voting cusp situation, this is what their ballot situation, if they haven't shared that with you, this is what it looks like. Hold on. It's not loading? Okay. So this is the return envelope, and you don't have to include a postage stamp. You could just send it like this. And this is the instructions. 1, 2, 3, 4. You check that you have all ballot cards and a return envelope. You vote. That's this pen and circle-y thing represents kind of like the bubble ends of what you would fill out. Then you pack it up and you sign and date it. Then you return it. By returning it, you put it in a ballot box or you take it to the post office and you vote safely at home, make your voice heard, accessible, vote by mail, track your ballot. We were talking about this before the event started, that we are in a unique time in history where we're living in an election year. And on top of that is a pandemic that really has changed full 360 the way that we navigate life in these times, and everybody's trying their best. Yeah, so this is the slide for today. I'm going to present now. So the Civic Center, building the foundations of youth civic engagement. We are a nonpartisan organization that focuses on registering high school students to vote and getting them engaged in the democratic process. I like to think that we partner with communities and high school communities to build the leadership of students like yourself and those around you to really get involved in the democratic process. As we're saying, we are nonpartisan, so there's that. If that means anything. Let's do this. The slide's not moving. Okay. So take the first step toward increasing voter turnout by registering to vote. Most of you are not going to vote this election year, but you are taking steps to encourage those around you to vote, and you're agitating the society, and you're really making your voice heard, which is important. How to vote by mail. You make a plan. So once you receive that ballot in the mail, you begin to make your plan from there. How do you want to go about it? When do you want to fill it out? What voter guides are you going to take a look at? How are you going to research, compare, and contrast these different guides and the current events that are happening around to make a conscious decision around casting your vote? Ballots mailed to registered voters beginning October 5th. So we're in October 24th. So those have been coming in the mail. If for some reason you haven't received it, you could contact the appropriate entity and they could send you a new one, reissue it. Ballots come in 18 languages, and there is a bilingual assistance hotline that is here to help out with that. And in a few slides, we'll go over some other hotlines that are more language specific, which is totally important. I think if you're at your neighborhood market or your corner store or something and you overhear somebody saying that they're having issues, you could literally direct them to this number or you could call for them. Returning your mail in ballot, no postage necessary. That's the stamp that goes in the corner of the envelope, the top right-hand corner. Must be postmarked by election day, that is November 3rd, but better to mail earlier. So it is better to mail it earlier instead of mailing it, say, November 3rd and letting it sit there at your desk or in your drawer or something like that. Mailbox, ballot box, or voting center. This is a website that is referenced throughout the slideshow. If you want to write it down, go ahead. And it's going to come up also later on, the California Early Voting.sos.ca.gov. And that has all information that you would need on voting. In Los Angeles County, California, it's California specific because this is ca.gov. So once you are registered, you may be wondering about all the options to vote this year, and I will go through each of them briefly. They include by mail, by dropping off your ballot, and by voting in person. But the most important fourth step is to make a plan to vote. Studies show that making a plan makes things easier. You can make a plan at plan.lavote.net. I could type that into the box, or if somebody could type that into the chat box. That is plan.lavote.net, which walks you through each step of the way. That's right here. So opening October, what's happened? So opening October 24th and October 23rd. Today is October 24th. So yeah, off to the season, if you will, to the election. October 24th through November 2nd, the polls will be open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And on election day, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that gives you enough time to plan out this going to the poll and then going about the rest of your activities of the day. And this could be a highlight to your day if you're going before work, after work, before school, during school, or some point. And it's usually like a topic of conversation. Save time by filling out a sample ballot in advance. Stay safe. Wear a mask and physically distance, but do not socially distance or distance socially, what have you. This is what I was referring to earlier. So these hotlines are language specific. So that means when you call this number, somebody will be able to help you in this language. That is the Spanish language, the English language, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Bengali, Hindi, Urdu, and Tagalog hotline, Arabic language hotline. So election protection hotline, intimidation, ID problems, voting machine issues, long lines, multilingual, and 24 hours on election day. So if you're having any of these issues, if you're being harassed, if you think you're experiencing discrimination, if somebody's being, if somebody's not being like, if you're experiencing discrimination of any kind based on your race, religion, or presentation or expression, call one of these hotlines and they will regulate that voting office. How you can make a difference. How you can make a difference. Vote. Pre-register to vote. Encourage those around you to pre-register or vote if they have that capacity. We know that we live in a culturally rich society and in a county where the diversity is present, and that includes those who can vote and those who cannot. If you have the ability to do so and really use your voice to help create the just society that we want to see reverberate throughout. This is an example of what the Civic Center does. We train students to be active and engaged. That includes some of you, most of you who are here in this space. So there's virtual high school voter registration drives. We have 11 high school fellows in 2020. and over 100 people have attended the summer 2020 activities. This is a snapshot of our current fellows. Some may not be pictured. This is the Ready to Vote Coalition. Coalition can mean a lot of things. And if you can see from the image right here, there's a bunch of different logos, a bunch of different icons, and those represent the organization that we work with and we collaborate with to ready the vote and ready communities, ready the people to successfully complete this this activity, this major democratic process sort of situation, helping out. After the election, what can you do after the election? If you don't have a Future Voters Club on your campus, start a Future Voters Club. If you are part of a Future Voters Club, continue having the conversations. Create support for high school voter registration on your campus. That is through a Future Voters Club or some other club, such as JSA, or a different club of your choosing. If none of those really fit you and you want to create something a little bit more different, then go ahead and do that. Or if you are part of a high school club already, bring this up in your club. Like, hey, if you're part of an art club, if you're part of a cross-country running club, or if you're part of a GSA or something like that, bring it up and create the support in that setting. Educators pledge, checklist for educators and state and local officials, sample policy for school districts. Hold your schools accountable, hold your districts accountable. Students do have the power, and you have all the ability to really have the type of school that you want, and that you need, and that everybody needs. Yeah, so you can hold your school districts accountable in several different ways. So thank you. Give us a follow at the Civic Center. Sign up at the Civic Center for our newsletter to get up-to-date information whenever we send out a newsletter, and that includes on programs, different events, different activities that are happening. And once again, I would like to commend you all for being here and taking the time to learn more about voting from home, filling out an absentee ballot, and to continue increasing your awareness, your knowledge on the topic of the civics and the democratic process.
Amazing.
I'll hand over the mic to Bianca and Bryce.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Okay, so now I hope everyone learned so much. I know I learned a lot that I didn't know before. Now we're kind of going to go into a Q&A portion. I know a lot of you are not 18 and can't vote, but a lot of your parents, older brothers and sisters, are eligible to vote. So if you have any questions regarding elections, ballots, how to start these kind of movements at my school, we are here to answer them. So yeah, does anyone want to take it away with your question? If you have a question, you can either like unmute yourself, or if you want us to raise your hand in the Zoom, we can call on you. But yeah, does anyone want to take it away with a question?
And you can also put it in the chat if you're more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I have a question and advice. So we were talking about starting a club at this school, and I know a question that comes up is, how do I start the club at my school, or how do I get students involved? So I know Future Voters LA, I found out about it on social media. I know social media is a really good way to get people involved. And through social media, or through the Civic Center and Future Voters LA, I decided to start a club at my school. So I started by getting students involved, and then I went to my principal and my AP Euro teacher, and I just said, hey, we'd love support. Anything you can offer is great. And so my AP Euro teacher was like, yeah, I'll give you support, even though he wasn't an official advisor, he was just supporting us. And then we filled out a form that our school gave us, and now we're an official club. So it really does start with just one person, an idea, and then you get other people involved, you get support from others. It's easier than you think.
Yeah, I also want to add the Civic Center website. We can drop it in the chat, has a lot of great resources. I pretty much have a similar story to Bryce. I started a club at my school, and it kind of started with one person, and then you kind of build a team and a community. But every single person at their school can start a club and start a movement and have these drives. Even though the election's coming up, a lot of these people, like every single year there's a new cycle of eligible voters or eligible people to pre-register to vote. And so if we just say, oh, voting only happens during an election year, that's kind of like takes away the point. So there's always a time to register to vote. There's always a time to inform people, and I think that's really important. I have another kind of question. So how do you ensure that you will get a ballot? Like, what steps do you have to take to receive a ballot and put your information in the system?
So to receive a ballot, you have to register to vote, or if you pre-register in this case. So there's an election year now, and the next election will be in 4 years. So you would pre-register or register, and you would get that in the mail. If you don't do none of that, you won't get anything in the mail. Or yeah, it's kind of like you're not you didn't do that. For some of you who don't go to college in your local area, or you're a local school in the area, you will be and if you happen to be out of town kind of thing, you'll probably be you could ask your parents to send you your envelope in the mail, or somebody whoever that person is in the household to send it to you, and you fill it out, then you send it in the mail back, sort of thing. That's just one common predicament.
Can you request to okay, I have another question, but I'm just posing questions right now. If anyone has any new questions, please raise your hand. But if you say change your address, change your name, change like anything that was on your registration before, do you have to re-register?
Essentially, you would be, it's not re-registering, you're updating information. Similar how you would update your information on different accounts, you're updating your information with the LA County. You're giving them a heads up like, hey, my address changed. This is my new contact information. This is my email address. Yeah, you would go about it that way. Yeah.
Okay, Millie put in the chat, how do I like learn if or decide that a source of information is reliable or not? And also piggybacking with what she said, like how do you find reliable sources when it comes to what these props are about, or like how like some of these are kind of confusing. How do you find a source that kind of gives you information, either like nonpartisan or just like telling you straight up the facts?
That's a great question. How do I discern if a source of information is reliable or not? That really resonates with the point of putting on your what is that? It's kind of like it's like your CSI hat, your discovery hat, and you're really tearing the information apart to make sure if it's reliable or not. Similar to the issues that were coming up, or the trending news around that having ballot boxes that are fake, that are false, that are farce. So you would literally discern that by taking keeping continue reading, looking at listening to the news, or finding a source that that is solid. So the ACLU of Southern California, that's the American Civil Liberties Union, they usually have credible sources. Anything that is kind of like, this is questionable, it is probably questionable, and you take a look at another source. Always compare and contrast the different sources that are available. We are living in a time where people are crutching to the virtual world a little bit more. So take a look at Planned Parenthood. What are they putting out? Take a look at I'm just naming organizations that are organizations that are fighting the good cause, and they might be signaling to people some sources to really look at. After this, you would get an email from Bianca and Bryce with a couple of voter guides that you could take a look at that include the League of Women Voters, Power California Action, and some other organizations that are partisan and who have put out yeses and nos and information that you would want to take a look at. Also, it's okay to disagree and it's okay to agree and go about it that way, for sure.
So
Yeah.
Alex, there's a question in the chat that
Can
says,
I add something?
go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add to what Alex was saying. I think that there isn't really like, whatever is your opinion, like there's sources that kind of go off like your opinion, you know what I mean? And so I think there are so many resources out there that you can find that are either like partisan and can help you, that are like similar beliefs to you, but also you can find plenty of resources that just tell you the straight on facts. So my biggest tip is to like do your research, because there are nonpartisan, like not opinions out there, but there are nonpartisan information out there on the like what the candidates are about, what their platform is, what the props are about, anything like that. Bryce, sorry, continue.
Okay, so Stella, any of you three can answer because we kind of all know that, but do we need our social security number to pre-register or register to vote?
Stella, to your question, you do need either the last 4 digits of your social security number or your California identification card. In some cases, not a lot of younger people, you don't get your some people don't get their identification card till later on, till they're 18 or they're getting ready to apply to fill out college applications or any sort of application. So when you pre-register, you'll use your social. You do need it. So you would ask your parents or whoever has that card for you. And yeah, usually I think by now, this is just for me, you start remembering or you start doing it often enough or using the last 4 of your social that you remember it. And it just becomes reflexive at that point.
And then Amy asked, what are the propositions on the ballot? So Alex actually has an amazing slideshow from a previous event that has all the propositions, so we can definitely include that.
Yes, there are so many ballot propositions and like for California, and we do have a slideshow for that, and our we'll include that in the email that you get, and it'll have a few links. So you would click that link and it'll show you some of the propositions and a general analysis about the proposition and what that would mean, what your vote would mean if you vote yes or if you vote no. Does that make sense? So the analysis is state of fact kind of thing, and there will be a summary that is a yes or a no in effect of what would happen with that sort of vote.
I just also wanted to add, I know it's like very common for people to think that like the presidential election is the only thing that's on the ballot, but that is very false. There are so many other candidates, positions, proposition measures that could really affect everyone. And so I think especially now, and even in the primaries, it's like every single election matters, and every, like, not just the president, there's like propositions that like even some of the propositions on the ballot today could like change any of our lives. So I think it's really important that you educate yourself about them, because they're really interesting once you read into them, and there's a lot of resources that you can find more information about.
Yeah, so I think to add on to that, it's sort of like, I think this was a conversation that I remember having around that some people, when they fill out their ballot, they only literally fill out the presidential ballot and leave the ballot propositions blank. And some of that is because they either don't have the information or they just skip all of that, and literally it's almost skipping part of the process. I wouldn't look at it as another task to do, but I would look at it as really implementing your voice and contributing to it. And yeah, somebody mentioned local elections matter. So the presidential elections or national elections are not the only time when voting is a thing. as all of you are doing and exercising your ability and putting your mind towards voting and stuff like that, literally there are so many other times when voting comes up, the local elections or your local elections, or maybe you're voting something in or out of the club and something comes up. The skills that you are practicing right now really help out when other instances of voting come up. So that's looking at voting more as a concept, which is now kind of like steering away from the conversation about the casting ballot for the national elections or local elections. Yeah. So for local elections, there are a lot of community organizations that get involved and activate a lot of forces. So if you're in Koreatown, if you're in Pasadena, if you're in downtown LA, South Central, West LA, any part of it, you could look up your local district. What is my local district on the internet? And it'll show you you're part of District 47. You are part of District this, and you could read up on your local district. I personally have signed up to my local district, and I get the newsletter there all the time. So the Curry Price is the district representative of my area, and I get information of what's happening all the time. So I feel like I'm in the know, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then since we were talking about propositions, I just want to, this is for anyone who this proposition interests them that you can look at later, but Proposition 18 basically allows, if you vote yes, it allows 17-year-olds who would be 18 by the general election to vote in primary or smaller elections. And there are reasons yes, there are reasons no, but I think that is a big resource that is very important. So if you want to check that out, it will be on the slideshow as well. And we're telling you all this so that you can tell your parents to vote yes or no on propositions, or you can just give them the resources so that they can decide later.
Unmute. Oh, I was muted? I'm so sorry. I literally thought I was talking. So this is about, well, I was talking, I was just not like nobody was hearing me. Amends California Constitution to permit 17-year-olds to vote in primary and special elections if they will turn 18 by the next general election and be otherwise eligible to vote. This often comes up. I think if you're a late in the year baby kind of thing, you're kind of like put you kind of either like are, this is just one example, like you start school late, or you're held back late a bit, or you're kind of like the older person in the classroom, or things like that. But this is literally in regards to voting. So legislative constitutional amendment, i.e. put on the ballot by the legislator and makes changes to the Constitution. The policy impact of your vote. A yes vote means eligible 17-year-olds who will be 18-year-olds by the time of the next general election may vote in the primary election and any special elections preceding the general election. A no vote means no one younger than 18 years of age may vote in any election. Democracy impact of your vote. The current requirement that voting in primaries is limited to those who will be 18 at the time of the primary rather than the general election is in the state constitution. Therefore, in order to amend the law, there needs to be a vote of the people. We are the people. Accordingly, if you hate initiatives, you have to vote yes if you want to extend primary voting to 17-year-olds who will be 18 by the general election. That's a little bit like, that speaks to people who, I hope that makes sense. Kind of like if you're 17 and you're going to be 18 by this certain point, that you can participate. So it really extends the opportunity instead of having to be skipped over, sort of thing. And this is another proposition, the Proposition 19, Proposition 20. This allows people who are on parole or anything of that sort to vote. So right now, people who are on parole, it sounds like, cannot vote. And yeah, it just allows them to vote and to participate. And everybody has a lot to say. And I think a lot of more people should have the ability to vote. So the policy impact of your vote. A yes vote means people who commit certain theft-related crimes, such as a repeat shot. This is just one example. Could receive increased penalties, such as longer jail terms. Additional factors would be considered for the state's process for releasing certain inmates from prison early. Law enforcement would be required to collect DNA samples for adults convicted of certain misdemeanors. A no vote means penalties for people who commit certain theft-related crimes would not be increased. There would be no change to the state process for releasing certain inmates from prison early. Law enforcement would continue to be required to collect DNA samples from adults only if they are arrested for a felony or required to register as sex offenders or arsonists. So yeah, a yes vote therefore makes it hard for legislators to change the law going forward. A no vote leaves greater flexibility for the legislator.
Yeah, I think, not to interrupt, I just wanted to quickly say, like, some of these, like, propositions 18 and 20, those are literally huge decisions that could change the future of our state. And so I think that this is like further saying it's not just the president who you're voting for, it's not just who these, like, I don't know, some people don't even like care to look at the rest of their ballot. Like, if you don't vote on some of these propositions, some voices are going to be, oppressed, and, like, these are huge things. So I think everyone needs to pay attention. Everyone needs to kind of get out their voice. This is the time. Propositions matter. Local elections are important.
And I think part of that is that most of you are paying attention, and we see what's happening in society and some of the issues that happen. So what's the deal? How can we actually really use this system, this democratic process, to really elevate and to change the way that things are being responded to, or the way that things are really happening? Like, jails help nobody. People need more resources. Students need more after school programs. Things need to change. Institutions need to be kind of supported. There's a lot of things that are issues. The homeless crisis here in Los Angeles is a big deal. In the local elections, what kind of things are going to be up for that? How can the city be in support of helping those people out who are in that particular predicament? How can communities be more responsible and have the appropriate way to respond with the support of the city? So it's like really a collective process, and one thing is connected to another. And it seems like there's not a lot of nothing is not connected almost. Yeah.
Is there any other questions before we kind of wrap up this event? Does anyone have any things to add? Alex, I think everyone wants to share, wants, like, in the resource packet, to make sure that document is shared so people can kind of get a little hint of what's going to be, what some of those propositions are. But yeah, if there's not any other questions, it was amazing for everyone to show up. I know I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did. I want to say thank you to the Civic Center and Alex for coming to help host this event. And thank you to Bryce for helping us hosting it with me. And yeah,
Bianca to helping it host with me.
I think I'm gonna pull up the link right now to that. I think that there's a public document for that. So let me get the link for you right now.
You could always make it view only, so when you share it, people can't, like, edit it or anything.
And